expectations, they keep weighing me down. My heart is begging me to get the hell out of my head. I'm gonna live inside the upside down for a minute and pretend, honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, and if I say it enough, it gets ingrained in my head, and I start to think, honey, I'm a perfect 10. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, honey, I'm a perfect 10. Honey, I'm a, yeah.
Messing with my head again. You had your heart set on me, but these feels, they come and go, and they come so easily. Tell me what it is about you that I can't forget, but you're breaking down my walls again, just to set me free. Why do I, baby, why do I love the way you always leave me? Why do I, baby, why do I love the touch but never love the feeling? Why do I, baby, why do I love the way you always leave me? Why do I, baby, why do I love the touch but never love the feeling? Staying up when I go out, you gotta know I'm all yours. But when I say what's that about, you start slurring your words. Tell me why you have to seem so distant when I'm holding you. Your fingertips are drifting away, and I fucking love how it hurts. Why do I, baby, why do I love the way you always leave me? Why do I, baby, why do I love the touch but never love the feeling? Why do I, baby, why do I love the way you always leave me? Why do I, baby, why do I love the touch but never love the feeling? Why do I, baby, why do I do I, baby, why do I do I, baby, why do I love the touch but never love the feeling?
just to know what you knew. Restless every time we start looking as a lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but in the dead of the night, let the darkness take control. Let the darkness take control. Darkness take control. May the darkness take control. Take me in the smoke, breathe me in and let me go. Sink to your heart to find you. Open up your eyes till you're blinded by the lies, so you can see what you do. Restless every time we start looking as a lost control. Oh, it's paradise with honesty, but in the dead of the night. Teardrops on the floor. The pain is over. Feel the darkness take control. Darkness take control.
Oh, oh, sorry. I was messing with I was trying to get rid of like this black screen. My setup's still a little janky. I was off for like 2, 3 weeks because I got let go from work, so I probably could have spent a good time trying to make it a little bit more organized. But stuff happens. Oops, hold on. And then sorry. And then I started my new job on yesterday actually, so I just haven't really had time, but it works. It's all that matters. Do I need to? Oh, I do. Sorry. Apologies, y'all. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. Forgot to update talking points, but honestly, I don't even know anymore. Let me just jot a few things down here. So what do we got? What do we have? Keep the Mitch McConnell thing up there. I already talked about the farmers. We'll talk about the Doge checks again. There's been a few things I want to talk about there. I'll keep that up there so people know what he did, but maybe do another rant on that. House doesn't have votes. Question mark? They might not. Explain a little bit more. Felon sells hats in Oval Office. Along with some other things. Felon gold cards. It's a little misleading, but who cares? I'll explain it, don't worry. Let me just jump to the Mitch McConnell one real quick. So here's sorry, I almost erase some of these things. I'm gonna keep that down there. Y'all ain't gonna lie. If you're watching this, feel free to put my Cash App on here. I got a Pokemon card addiction going on right now, and it's expensive. Like I said, I was also out of work for like 2-3 weeks. So I'm gonna shamelessly put that there. I don't give a damn. You don't have to donate or whatever, but you know. Sorry, I was checking. Okay. But yeah, I'm gonna put that on there. I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be for my Pokemon addiction, along with my comic book addiction. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. But anyways, okay, so let's go ahead and so let me just talk about the Mitch McConnell. So Mitch McConnell's looking to retire finally. Dude probably should have retired long ago. But so his seat will be up for election next in 2 years. I think he's staying till the next midterm, so I think 2026. But I haven't really looked into the candidates quite yet, to be honest. I'll probably do that a little bit closer, right? The only ones I plan on really announcing and promoting are from the special elections that are happening later this year. Just a reminder, those are 2 in Florida, 1 in New York, right? And don't forget, the House is already a slim majority, which is why I have the House doesn't have votes up there for this proposal that's coming up, right? Trump's tax cut proposal, tax plan proposal. They might not have the votes, and I'll explain in a little bit. Yeah, so that's kind of what's going on right now. In terms of Mitch McConnell, like he's just looking to step down. And oddly enough, as he's trying to step down, he seems to be trying to save face a little bit. Now he's kind of like saying no to Trump and all these things, right? A little too late, right? Again, he's just trying to save face at this point. He doesn't really care, right? He just wants to kind of go out looking like a hero, essentially. Um, but yeah. Okay. Cool. So there's that. So that's all I really wanted to touch on that. Again, nothing too crazy. He's just retiring, right? We kind of figured it was coming anyway, especially after all these damn incidents he's had over like the last year, falling and spacing out and all kinds of stuff. Like I said, everyone complained about Joe Biden and pretty much, uh, you know, did their best to try and convince it to drop from the race, but again, no one really cared to try for Mitch McConnell, let alone the felon. So that's really all on that point. Sorry, I got some Pokemon cards in from orders on TikTok and I haven't really sorted them yet. So if you see me kind of looking down distracted, that's why. Like I said, I got a damn Pokemon card addiction going on right now. I'm not looking to collect them, I'm looking to really sell them. So if you're interested in buying, let me know. Sometimes I'm just giving them away because I'm not trying to get a big collection. Anyways, okay, so that's Mitch McConnell news. Again, I'll skip the felon, calls him king again. Probably say that towards the end. And let's go and get into it. So, a lot has quite happened just today, actually. One thing I was actually really enjoying the most, if we take a look here, is the stock market. Yeah. So just a reminder, the felon had promised on day one of his presidency, right? Day one, not day two, not day three, day 30, day 100, not 1 year later. Day one of his presidency, the felon had promised that prices of groceries and gas would go down on day one. And then a little after that, he also said that we'll have a booming economy with a strong stock market. It has been quite the opposite. Prices have gone up, gas has gone up, and the stock market has been going down. Now, I won't really touch on Tesla too much because that's kind of been on a downward trend for a while because of Elon Musk and how he's pretty much alienated the people who would buy his product, electric vehicles. Because if you remember, MAGA is really not into the whole green energy thing, right? It's too woke for them. It's not manly enough and beta and all that crap, right? So he's kind of alienated in his actual his market base. So overseas, I think like in Germany or maybe most of Europe, but I know Germany for sure. There has been like a 50 to 60% decrease in sales from last year or last quarter. So basically losing revenue. That's not considering, potentially more losses here because of the tariffs that Trump has said he's going to go through with and has imposed some on China, which affect, again, prices of Teslas. On top of that, the Cybertruck has really not launched all that well. A lot of them being kind of blown to smithereens and stuff. A lot of people don't really trust their safety anymore. And then additionally, a lot of them just, oh, hello. Again, a lot of them just don't want to buy because Elon Musk. You know what the crazy thing is? I guarantee, like, if Musk were to actually sell the company, which we know he won't, he might have to be forced out. But I don't know if the board has the balls to do it. They might. I could be wrong. But anyways, I imagine, like, if he actually were to step down, I guarantee sales go up, right? I guarantee because then you have that stain on the brand gone, right? That's kind of what it is right now. Is he's a stain on the brand, right? He did the Schnazi salute. He acts like a fascist, works with the fascists, talks like one, acts like one. I already said act, sorry. So like, she's just a stain of the company. Speaking of which, other things he sucks at. So this whole Doge thing, right? So 20 people. Let me pull it up. Okay, so this is stock market. So like 20 people. If you want to see the Tesla, that do in the aftermarket. Oh, it went up like $4 in the aftermarket. I'll give him that. But it dropped pretty far. It went from like 320, 330 opening today, and dropped all the way down to 302. Apparently aftermarket right now is 305 now. So it's not looking good. Um, but anyway, so kind of on some more. It's crazy how there's always news about Doge. Like I don't understand. Like you know how bad you have to be to always have some stupid crap going on because you don't know how to do your freaking job that you supposedly were assigned to. Pretty freaking bad, right? But anyways, as I was saying, where, let me look up. Let me just search it real quick. Doge. The Doge shit government agency. Doge count's going to. Nope. 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 Do they really not have that news article here? Might have to search it on the interwebs. There it is. Ha ha ha. Okay, there's actually a couple things with Doge. For starters, over 20 staffers. I don't know if I thought it was more than 21, but I mean, it's still more than 20, but I thought it was more than 21. but over 20 staffers from Doge have left, quit, resigned, basically stating they won't help dismantle public services. Because you have to remember, that's all this is. That's all Doge is really. It's removing things and cutting things that the felon and President Elon do not agree with. Um, and on top of that, a lot of the things they're cutting and gutting um, are things like so USAID, for example. Uh, so for those that may have forgot or maybe not known at all or don't remember, whatever the case may be, just a reminder: USAID was actually investigating Trump for misuse of funds. Right? They sent him some contracts and say, "Hey, this is for Starlink or whatever they said it was for," and they were suspicious about if he was actually using that money for what it was actually allocated to. So they launched an investigation on him, which is why his first target was USAID because he didn't want them investigating him because where the actual fraud is at is under Starlink, under Musk, right? And it's not a secret. We know, like, this is not the first time Musk has been investigated for misuse of funds, right? And again, if you look at all the agencies he's trying to cut and trying to remove, it's ones where they questioned him, it's ones where they're investigating him, it's ones where they did business with him and are like, hey, we're not really sure you're doing what you're promising. We're gonna investigate you, right? So you have to remember that he's not targeting actual fraud or waste. He's just trying to dismantle the agencies that were looking to basically catch him in the act. You have to remember too that during the campaign trail, he had also mentioned that if the felon loses, that he and the felon would probably be facing jail time. He had said that, and we understood why, uh, and which is why they were working so hard to make sure the felon got elected to avoid jail time. You have to remember, Republicans don't hold their own accountable. They like to talk big game about law and order. They like to talk about how people must follow the rule of law, respect the law, follow authority, blah blah blah. They don't actually mean it. Like right now, um, what browser am I using? Uh, I'm using the news app, from Apple. Or if you're talking about like in general, I use well, on my iPad I use Safari. But yeah. Um but yeah, this right here on screen, that's the news app. Um I'll show you. Oh, sorry. Hey, no, hold on, hold on. Oh, you're good. Yeah, right there, news. Um yeah, and then like I said, I use Safari. Like I'm screen sharing my iPad, so like if you do see me use a browser, it's gonna be Safari, because like I'm using my iPad. But where was I? But no, all good. Anyways, so yeah, you have to remember that Elon is targeting these places because they're investigating him for actually misuse of proper funds. And if you remember during the campaign, he made it very clear that if the felon loses, they will be going to jail, right? It wasn't a secret, and we also know why. That's why the felon wanted to run for re-election and win the presidency to avoid jail time. He was in general, he's really hoping to avoid the whole court issue in general, right? That way, he wasn't labeled a felon. Uh, as much as he wants, as much as he wants to deny it or whatever, it eats him up inside. We know that. Um, it really does eat him up. Like he hates it because he has that. Not only does he have being twice impeached on his record, right? Which is actually insane. The only president to be twice impeached, by the way. Potentially a third time if the Democrats take the House back, which is very likely. Um, but uh, but at the same time, he ran because he was trying to avoid consequences for his actions. And as I was saying, Republicans don't really care or about law and order. They talk big game. They talk about people need to be held accountable. All this BS, right? But a good example of this which is crazy, right? This is what's crazy. A great example of Democrats actually holding their own accountable. There's been a few cases, but most recently, let's go with the most recent, is Eric Adams, right? Eric Adams was caught doing was it misproper use of funds? Something with funds. I don't remember the exact details, but essentially something illegal. And uh, basically, the Trump administration or the Fallon's administration was like, "Hey, drop the charges." Because they're going to try and get something out of Adams, right? Quid pro quo, essentially. And one of the attorneys even had written a letter about this, how there is quid pro quo, or she believes there's quid pro quo. I don't think she actually officially stated quid pro quo existed, but she had pretty much said like, hey, like it's possibly happening because if the deal is basically if the DOJ drops the charges against Mayor Eric Adams, then in return he'll provide some information about who knows what. It could probably be anything, right? Which is what makes it like not even they'll save any criminal as long as they can benefit from it. They don't care about law and order. So it wouldn't surprise me if, like, next election cycle, if the charges do get dropped on Adams, he's all of a sudden turns Republican. And it's so annoying because not only is he someone who broke the law, he'll turn Republican, and then of course, like, oh look, another Democrat turns. Is like, you you're celebrating the fact that you have these criminals jumping to your side. Like, I don't know if that you want to be the party of law and order, but you're like celebrating all these criminals joining your party, right? And then you have to remember the fact that they released the January Sixers. Those they got pardoned, right? And um, sorry, just putting lotion on. My hands were dry. Yeah. Anyways, uh, so they pardoned the January Sixers, and then those same people they pardoned were right back at committing crime. They just love criminals. The only criminals they don't love are immigrants. I should probably clarify that. Um, so yeah, like they don't really care about the law. They just claim to care about the law because they think they use it as a talking point. They don't actually believe in it. As it is, they don't even believe in the Constitution. They allow Trump to do what he wants because they believe he should be allowed to do what he wants. Which means if he has to skirt around the Constitution, break a few amendments here and there, push the line, act as a king like he claimed he was a king, then they're going to allow him to do it. They'll move the goalpost, right? They'll move it as many times and as often as they have to because they're at a point. This is what I believe. You can call it a conspiracy, whatever you want. There's two things here. They're at a point where they kind of know they're wrong, right? But are trying to convince themselves that it's not as bad as it looks. Okay? The second thing is there are some that realize they're wrong and what they're getting is not what they voted for, but they can't admit to it because they'll look like a bunch of idiots and then they can't say, oh, we own the libs. Right? That's all this is about, is owning the libs. Um, so anyways, a group of 21 career civil servants whose team was folded into Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency resigned on Tuesday, today, writing in a joint letter posted publicly that they refuse to use their skills to put Americans' data at risk and dismantle critical public services. The federal workers, mostly software engineers and product managers, were once part of the U.S. Digital Service, which was renamed DOGE when Musk launched the initiative. Within the White House, the Musk-led unit was laid off thousands of workers and moved to dismantle entire agencies in a slash-and-burn campaign to reduce the size of government. Sorry. In the letter addressed to the White House Chief of Staff Susan Wiles, the government's Employees wrote that they swore an oath to the Constitution to serve American people, but that it has become clear that we can no longer honor these commitments at the United States Doge service. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responded to the 21 Doge workers resigning in a mass, saying, "Don't let the door kick you on the way out." The letter was first reported by the Associated Press. So, I think that's a pretty clear statement, right? They clearly said, "Hey, this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing this. I'm not going to be part of this. You know, like, what are we doing?" And then in response, "Don't let the door kick you on the way out." Right? Again, they don't care what laws they potentially break or are breaking. They don't care what the courts say. They don't care what even some of their constituents say, right? They don't care, right? They don't respect the law. They don't respect checks and balances. They don't respect that there's people telling them to their face, like, "Hey, this is wrong," right? Like, we thought, we're doing something good here, but we're not. And it's just like, you know, what do you really do at that point? There's really nothing you can do. At least not right now. And here's the thing, right? I'm all for impeaching Donald Trump again, but at the same time, it's like if he does get impeached, then it goes to the Senate and he actually gets removed. I do believe J.D. Vance is worse. Um, Only because, um, for one, Vance is younger, right? For one, Vance is younger, and two, um, he understands politics more than the felon. Not in terms of like he's actually smart with politics, not to kind of confuse the two. It's just at least he has a little bit more knowledge on the ins and outs of how politics works. So he can probably find an easier time to skirt around some of these checks and balances. Where there right now the situation is where Trump is kind of listening, but also thinks he's right about everything. I think that's what it's kind of at right now. In their Tuesday letter, the Doge employees noted that about 40 staffers in the office were laid off last week. They had been working on improving the technical system at Social Security, Veteran Services, disaster relief, and other government functions. Their removal endangers millions of Americans who rely on these services every day. The sudden loss of their technology expertise makes the critical system and American data less safe. The resigning employees who do not list their names wrote in the letter to Wiles. Among the 40 who were terminated earlier this month was Jonathan Kamens, a Doge engineer who said he believes he was targeted for publicly endorsing Kamala Harris. Dude, you don't have to believe it. That was exactly why you were targeted. Like, just, you don't have to. Don't worry about, sitting around thinking that's the reason why. We know that's the reason why. Like, just, The U.S. Digital Service spent more than a decade making government better to normal, everyday people. Kamens told NPR, Elon Musk doesn't care about any of that. All he cares about is seizing power, making his obscure fortune even larger. Yeah, because what's happening is, how people, so this goes back to those checks, right? So there's a lot of people on TikTok, a lot of MAGA supporters, a lot of Fallon supporters on TikTok talking about like, oh, don't cash those check stems, blah 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 blah, as if they really believe they're getting a check, and it's really concerning that they actually think a check is coming to them, right? Let's pretend they're one of them. Let's say they're actually going to go through with it. Let's say, oh, look at, let's say what they're saying is true. The numbers just don't even make sense. Like, they're first it was like $5,000. No, first it was like $2,000 checks, right? Then it went to like 2,500. Then it went up to like 5,000. Now it's like 8,000, with some claiming like 10,000. Actual Trump supporters. Now they could be trolling. I'll give them that. But at the same time, you just never know. Like if they're trolling or not, they actually could be legit serious. That they really think they're getting $10,000 checks. But anyway, so let's say this is true. When you look at the amount of people that are going to receive these checks, and then you multiply that amount and compare it to the amount they claim they found in wasteful spending, which is already a lie, they didn't find enough and wasteful spending to cover all those checks they're claiming to disperse out to the American taxpayers, right? That's what it's coming down to is they don't have the money to actually fund every single taxpayer with let alone $2,000 checks. It's I don't know. I know math isn't their strong suit, but you'd think they actually attempt to do something like this to see if they're actually getting that money. Because that's all it takes to figure out like you're not getting it is if you just kind of like do the math. You can use a calculator. There's nothing wrong with using a calculator. Use a calculator, guys. Like that money ain't coming. You're getting played. And and I don't know really how else to tell you. You're just gullible, right? Like talking about drain the swamp and everything, but you literally are promoting the swamp. Yeah. Do I think eventually they'll get it? No. Maybe like a very few handfuls, maybe, right? Um, but aside from that, no, I don't think any of them will really I don't think ever really change. There's actually a lot of Doge news. I didn't realize there was this many Doge articles in just today. Oh, they finally revealed the administrator. Amy Gleason. I don't really think it's them. I think remember Doge is being sued right now. So to protect Elon, they have to put someone else in charge. In charge. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted here. There's a lot of Doge news going on here. Like this is actually insane. So you think it couldn't get worse, right? On top of that, so this kind of leads into like the House vote. So I had mentioned like on my notes here, right? Um, that the House doesn't have votes? Question mark. So they're actually, did they announce they're going to actually look into? Let me look this up. I think I read somewhere that they're actually going through with the vote. Um, for today. Yeah, House budget vote. So it looks like get rid of that here. Sorry. Um, there's a trouble. Maybe something recent. So it says it's going through. Let's go House votes. Okay. House advances budget plan for a vote as GOP leaders ask Trump to wrangle holdouts. So let's put this in context. So one of the promises Trump made throughout his campaign was having, and Mike Johnson as well, who kind of parroted the same talking point, was one big beautiful bill. First bill is gonna be one big beautiful bill. Um, it doesn't look like it's gonna really happen. Uh, so going back to a few things. First the Doge thing, or first the House majority thing. You have to remember it's only like a 2 or 3 seat majority right now for House Republicans, meaning they only can afford two no, yeah, two no votes. one no vote, one or two no votes, if all Democrats vote against. Okay. Um, so they don't really have the votes right now. Okay, because what Doge is doing is cutting Medicaid, or what the bill's doing because of Doge, essentially claiming that there's fraud in it, is it's removing and cutting Medicare, Medicaid spending. And there's a lot of districts that are Republican heavy that rely on these programs. So a lot of a lot of Republican representatives in the House are against this bill because they're afraid what it could do to them come election time, right? Because if they actually cut these programs off from who votes for them, it's not going to be good because they made these promises like, oh, your programs are fine, nothing's going to happen, and all kinds of stuff. But right now, it's going to be put up to a vote right now, in the House. Is it actually happening tonight? There may vote tonight. May not be. Stay tuned. That's why you get paid to hang around here. So, what they're trying to do is instead of using words like Medicare, Medicaid, they're slashing funding from these programs that look over Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Um, and someone more. So anyway, so yeah, that's why a lot of this. So that's why they may not get the votes because there are a couple Republicans who've already come out and said no, we're not doing this because they're afraid if this vote goes through and it passes, it's going to harm their district, which means it's going to harm their votes, and they could lose their seat. And as it is, they have a very slim majority in the House already. Um, so it's one of those where it's like, okay, this happens, it's bad, but at the same time, it's good because Dems get back control and we can get more pushback, right? And I'll admit right now I'm a little disappointed with the Dems. I feel like a lot of them aren't doing enough in terms of speaking out and all these things. There are very few that are actually speaking out, not afraid to stand up. Um, but anyways, so it's like one of those like okay, bad but good, mostly bad. On top of that, you have uh, you have Trump also still promising not to touch these programs, but it's very clear that these programs will be touched. And they're doing this because they need to pay for those tax cuts for the rich. It's like 4 point some trillion dollars they have to cover, plus an additional 19 trillion over 10 years. Trump is adding 4 trillion to the debt, along with 2 trillion, another 2 trillion, because I have to look it up again. But they don't really care. They're adding to the deficit. They're adding to the debt, a couple $1 trillion, all because they're trying to get more tax cuts to the rich, and we have to pay for it, whether through taxes or slashing programs that benefit people in need. One of those programs being the VA. Um, there are a bunch of VA workers that got fired, uh, and it like people already bitch about like how it's bad. So the VA needs to be done. So why would you make something even worse? That's what doesn't make sense to me. Why would you go in and make something worse, right? Because it's bad. It does like you're not looking to improve it. You're looking to demolish it. You're looking to get rid of it. You don't want you're saying you want it because it benefits you, but it just needs to be fixed. No, you're saying destroy it. Like you don't really care if it's around, right? Because you think you're going to be fine. It's it's one of those things. Oh, I made that nice. It's one of those things where it needs to actually affect them so they understand the consequences. And that's what bugs me, is like, you know, there's like they're selfish, right? They claim to care about these people. They claim they want to protect these people. They claim they want to help these people. But when it comes down to actually doing all those things, they vote against them. They vote to not help them. They vote to harm them. They vote to not protect them. They vote to, like, all these things they do that do not benefit who they claim they're trying to help, right? And it's like it just doesn't make sense. So I don't, like I said, I don't know if the vote's going through tonight. Um, is this it?
Slasher and Chief.
Oh wow, I think they actually are voting on it. Holy cow. Hold on, sorry. Oh, never mind. This is described. The vote came after several conservative hardliners made clear they would not support the fiscal blueprint as written. Adopting the budget measure is a key step forward in moving a big, beautiful bill that Trump and Johnson have called for. One that includes border security, tax, and energy provisions that the president campaigned on. It's unclear when or if House GOP leaders will bring the measure back up. Given the House GOP's tiny majority and the United position of Democrats, a handful of hard holdouts are sufficient to block action. They include Reps Tim Burchett of Tennessee, Warren Davidson of Ohio, Thomas Mass of Kentucky, Victoria Spartz of Indiana. Remember those names, guys. Remember those names. Gotta vote them out. All four voiced public opposition to the budget plan Tuesday. Still, Republican leaders vowed to push ahead roughly an hour before the vote was scheduled to begin. Majority Leader Steve Scalise said, "We're still moving forward," as the whip effort continued. Fallon was among those who put the pressure on Tuesday, speaking to Burchett early in the day in a phone call placed by Johnson. "I told him that I would talk about it, think about it, pray about it, and that's what I'm doing," Burchett said afterwards, saying he would decide right before I walk up for the vote. The fiscal hawks all raised objections about inadequate spending cuts in the measure. Davidson also aired concerns about how Republican leaders plan to handle the impending March 14th government shutdown. I forgot that was coming up soon. Leadership had been open that members would fall in line behind the budget plan as the only way to deliver the vast agenda Trump is seeking. Some hardliners agreed to back the plan last month to the House Budget Committee after securing an additional $500 billion in spending cuts over 10 years. Let me check something real quick and then come back to that. Because if they voted, that means they're still probably talking about it real quick. Ignore my YouTube.
Learn about crypto and get rewarded as you learn with Coinbase Learning Rewards. We've paid out over $100 million.
Why is it not turning down? Okay, so anyways, budget bill. I don't think it passed. I don't know. I can't tell. So it needs 217 to pass. It's at 216 right now. I'll come back to that. I guess we could have it playing in the background there, right? With aggressive no votes. Okay, so I'm a little confused because this said, I'm assuming it must have been updated. I'm really trying to find out here, but so it looks like they did vote. But again, you need 217 to pass, and they only need one more vote to pass. I'm also trying to read the comments here. Just a reminder, this budget cut does not include the no tax on OT and no tax on tips. Oh, did it actually pass? It's 217 and 218, guys. I think it's 217, right? Okay. I'll come back to that. I don't know. It's not looking good. But it's just a reminder that bill doesn't include. That bill doesn't include the no tax on tips and no tax on OT. You're still gonna have tax on OT and tax on tips. It's just cutting federal programs that benefit veterans and the elderly and the disabled and children, right? People they claim to care about. It's cutting those programs so that way that money can go to President Elon and all of the felons' family members, right? Because remember those that the think of it like this: the fraud and the waste they claim to have found, right? Which reminds me, that they have quietly removed those receipts from the Doge website, claiming this is what the fraud and stuff was. All that money they claim to have found in wasteful spending and fraud, um, is just money they're looking to put into their pockets. Not even just that. It's a mixture of that and then the money was not even like actually found. It was just stuff they found years ago. Like, hey, look at this, right? Like there was something about like cups in the military, like $2,000 cups or some crap like that. That was audited and found, and was actually it was audited, found, and then dealt with back in 2018, right? But they try to claim like, oh, this has happened through Doge right now, right? That's all they're doing. They're finding shit that was from years ago and saying, look it, we found it, and it's like, but that's already been taken care of. And these MAGA dumbasses don't understand that. Like they don't. They think it's something new. They think Doge is something new, right? They think it's a new toy. They think it's something just invented, something that wasn't happening before. When all it is something that any American citizen, even anyone in the world, could have done. Anyone could have gone to check out these budget plans, check out where money's being spent, check out where the money's how the money's being distributed. Anyone could have done this if they actually really cared about this whole wasteful spending and where the money's going and what's being funded and blah blah blah. They would have done this. But MAGA is one of those they don't understand how to do research. They don't know how to read. They don't know how to check things for themselves. They have to actually be treated like a child, right? You hold their hand nice and gently, then you walk with them step by step, talking to them to like they're a fucking kindergartner. And then they think they know enough to a point where they can talk with the adults, right? They're the kids that wish they were at the adult table, right? But they're not at the adult table because they don't know how to have an adult conversation. Except in this case, they just kind of force themselves to the adult table, right? Because the fact that they really think they're getting these checks like I've said it before in my streams before. If you really believe in getting these checks, if you really believe Doge is finding things that you didn't know about before because it was being hidden, because no transparency, just find an adult to actually help you with the pair of scissors, or buy like the safety. I don't even trust you with the safety scissors. Like what are they called? Like I think they're just like not sharp. I don't even trust you with those. Just don't use a knife. Don't use a fork. Right? Don't use scissors. Don't use any sharp object if you actually believe these things, because you quite literally need to be coddled, because you don't know how to read, you don't know how to research, uh, and you just refuse to understand how things work. That's what it comes down to. You were never interested. You never cared. You just claimed to care because who knows why. Trump told you, or the Fallon told you to care, right? He used all these nice little buzzwords, these nice little bumper sticker slogans to. I'll give him credit on that. He understood his voting base has the education level of a first to third graders, where they're on the cusp of you know reading like small chapter books. Think of like Goosebumps, right? Those books how they had big text, so it wasn't a lot of pages. It looked like a lot of pages, but in theory, it really wasn't. Right? Like it could have been like a 200-page book, but because the text was so big, it was like 400 pages. Think of that. They're on the cusp of being able to read that. They start to sound out the words, right? That's he knows that's where his voting base is at. It's right on that. It's right there, right? So I'll give him that. The fellow knew as long as he uses like these bumper sticker slogans where they only had to read 3-4 words, golden. Because he knew he knew that's all they could read. 3-4 words. We'll say five. We'll say five. We'll give him 5 words. And so he knew that. He took advantage of that, right? He knew his voter base was just fucking stupid. Like, I'm trying to put it nicely, but I feel like any way I put it is just. Alright, let me check in on an update on this real quick. Is there an update on this? Let's go. I guess I could go back to YouTube real quick. Let's go back to YouTube real quick. See if anything. Oh, the live is gone. Just kidding. Ah. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. I don't know, folks. Let's see. Let's check out. I don't really use Twitter anymore. Okay, so I don't. Okay, I don't. They just had a vote, so obviously they did not cancel the vote, unless it had to be a different vote. Like I'm. All right, maybe it's just maybe it was just some resolutions they wanted to add in there that they voted on, but it wasn't the actual. Oh, there it is. House Republicans just passed their budget resolution Tuesday that would virtually guarantee decustomizing Medicaid food stamps, all to fund a major tax break. It's still out trillions. Okay, so it did pass. Well, there it is. And passes anybody's going to regret this. They just cut Medicaid. All right. Well, I guess it was official. They must have got the votes last minute. Oops. They must have got the votes last minute, and that's why they decided to go through with it. Um, oh boy. Okay, so I guess we can take that one. So I guess they did have the votes. Um, like I said earlier, throughout the day, there was like 4 or 5 Republicans who were against it because of the whole Medicaid part. I mean, look, like I said before, if this goes through and those cuts be made, it's going to affect those red areas the most. That's what they don't realize is a lot of these programs are mostly used in red states and heavily red counties. So in this case, if it does go through the Senate, which I imagine it will, and then obviously get signed, there's gonna be some people losing some seats. Um, it just sucks because like even if we were to get a Democratic president in the next election, um, like fixing all these programs, reviving these programs, it's going to be hard, right? It's so much has been gutted, so much has been axed out, taken down, removed for no reason, that getting it all back is going to take time. It's easier tearing things down than it is building things up, right? Um, and they know that. That's why they're doing this purposely. Because that's kind of the goal, right? Is to make it as hard as possible um, to bring these programs back, right? That's the goal, is make it as hard as possible to bring these because in the end they don't like these programs. They want to use they want to use the money these programs were funded with and give them to the rich because they really truly believe trickle down economics works, even though there's much proof that it does not work, right? Like we've seen it happen, we've seen it in play, we still kind of do. It doesn't work. Just because you give the rich more money does not mean that it eventually comes down to the working class. It doesn't work that way. Because if that were true, you wouldn't constantly have places like Meta, Microsoft, Google, um, uh, and a couple other large tech companies always having layoffs every year. You wouldn't have it because they keep getting tax cuts, but they still keep letting people go, right? Um, but they do it because they just want more money. So now they can hoard more money, right? Um, Pay less in taxes and just, when money is being hoarded, it doesn't go back into the economy. And I don't know why no one understands this. I feel like this is basic economics 101. When money is not going into the economy, nothing is being nothing is being the economy isn't being stimulated, right? Because it's just being hoarded in offshore accounts. Uh, but when you give the money to the working class, the lower class, right, you see an increase in the economy because it's actually being run through the economy, right? Like this isn't fucking rocket science. It really isn't. That's how you fix the economy is you make sure the middle and lower class have the money so they can stimulate it because it's not being stimulated if people aren't able to buy things, if people aren't able to afford things, if people can't go out and do things, that means businesses aren't getting income, that means their employees are going to get income, which means employees will get let go, which means businesses will shut down, which means people will rely more on government assistance because they need to live, right? Like like that's why capitalism, I would say, capitalism doesn't really work on its own. I feel like people know that, but they're so afraid of the word socialism that they they just like fear it, right? Capitalism doesn't work on its own. It needs to rely on something else because what capitalism is a system created for the wealthy to remain wealthy and in power, right? Think of Russia. Go figure. As long as the wealthy remain in power, they control the means of production, they control the rule of law, they control social constructs, they control all these things because they have all the wealth, they have all the power. And at any point, they can say, hey, I don't think you deserve that, and just take it away. How do they take it away? They raise the prices, you know? Then you have things like AI coming in, pretty much replacing jobs. Why? Because that means less people employed and more money into the pockets of the rich. Like, this isn't fucking rocket scientists, right? Like, sure, there's some other meats and potatoes to all this, but on the surface level, that's pretty much it. You can go into all these little technicalities all you want, but in the end, if people aren't putting money into the economy won't run. It's really just that simple. Then you still have the threats of terrorists coming, right? Like, it just. I don't really know what else we can do to convince these people because they're so caught up. Like, they're always touting, oh, uh, we don't vote on our feelings, but they do vote on their feelings because every time you ask a Trump or you ask a felon voter, like, why did you vote for the felon? They'll say, oh, because I felt things were, I was making more money. Like, there was this one guy I seen on TikTok. This was insane to me. There was one guy I seen on TikTok. Um, he complained about the housing crash that it started under Bush and just continued under Obama because Obama inherited, right? So like he lost his job, lost his house, or whatever, something like that. Then he finds a new job, right? Uh, under Obama and starts getting paid more. But then he loses his job again under Trump. Um, but then, but because it happened during COVID and COVID mostly lasted longer under Biden, he blamed Biden for it, despite Trump. So like he literally blamed himself. He blamed Obama and Biden for giving him a better job, but because he had that better job longer under the felon, he thought it was the felon's doing for why he was more successful. They don't they like I don't know how else to explain ignorance. Or I didn't even know how I would explain to that guy how what he just said makes zero damn sense. It just it blowed my mind. Like, how did you come up with? How do you go through that whole circus, go through all those loops just to jump to that conclusion? You were so adamant on making sure you didn't give credit to Obama or Biden that you still somehow blame them despite the good things happening under them, but because it happened to last longer under the Fallon, you thought it was his doing. And that's my point. Like, they voted on their feelings, right? They talk about gas prices, but don't understand what the OPEC deal was and how that increased gas prices. They also talk about, oh, it's because Biden drilled less, but when you show them that Biden drilled more, they'll blame something else. Like, oh, but what about this? What about that? It's like, dude, like, you keep saying that, but obviously it didn't harm the production of drilling because we were still drilling more to the point where we're selling on the market to get money from other countries because oil is a global commodity. It's not just a U.S. thing, right? So if we can sell it on the market for a better price because it's better for us, why wouldn't we want to do that, right? Um, then they talk about the reserves, like they know what the fucking the reserves are, and how that works. Again, they don't know anything. They get a few buzzwords, they get a few talking points. They watch like Fox News or OAN or whatever the fuck it's called. They watch Joe Rogan, which they're apparently mad at Joe Rogan right now because he's turning his back on Donald Trump, um, and all these things, and yeah, they think they're able to have these conversations with the big boys, with the adults, right? With the big boys and girls. But they really can't. Sorry, that was quite a rant there. So yeah, I guess budget plan pass and social programs be cut. I mean, I don't really know how else to put it. It's gonna cause a lot of backlash for the GOP and the Republican Party. Not right away. That's kind of the problem. It's not gonna happen right away. It's going to be when the next midterms come around. I imagine this will impact these special elections. There's a lot of people in Florida who rely on these programs, but for the time being, we're just kind of stuck, right? Like, yeah. All right, to the final two things. So earlier today, um, the Fallon was signing an executive order in his Oval Office because again, they think he thinks that's what transparency is, as if like if you were to do behind closed door, we can't figure out what he signed. That's the funniest thing. They just see a guy on TV sign something like, "Oh, look, transparency." It's like, no, he does it behind closed doors. You can still look up what he signed. Just because he signed it on TV doesn't mean you won't know if he didn't. It's a show to them, right? It's a show. It's entertainment. They actually do not care about the whole political things. They care about being entertained, right? That's why it's called Fox Entertainment. That's where they always get their news, because it's entertainment, nothing more. But anyway, so while he was signing in the Oval Office, oops, oops, sorry. We should look this up. I have to look it up. Ugh. Executive order. Hopefully, it gives me a recent because I know it's an exec. I don't remember. Is it gonna show me what I want though? Probably not. All right, we go into threads, guys. Hold on, because you gotta see this. Like, this is how much of a joke it is to them. Like, like honestly, this is how much this guy. This is how you know he just doesn't care about the office. He is literally promoting and selling his merchandise in the Oval Office right now. Right? He's selling his merchandise, promoting his merchandise in the Oval Office. He doesn't care about you, doesn't care about the office, doesn't care about the tradition of it. He is legit promoting his fucking merchandise in the Oval Office. Think about that. You know how fucking disgusting that is? And I guarantee MAGA's fine with it. Guarantee it. Right? During this, he also announced, does he have it too? He also announced, where's that? These gold cards. He's gonna sell gold cards. Get this. So you know, MAGA's always bitching about, you know, uh, immigrants and all these things. Trump, or the felon, sorry, excuse me, didn't mean to call him that. The felon, um, is going to sell golden cards for $5 million, and whoever buys them, whatever person buys them from another country, will become, according to him, um, will give you green card privileges, okay, um, and you'll be welcome into the country, okay. You can pay five. Think about that. All these people who are going through process legally that spend years upon years doing it the right way, all those same ones that voted for Trump because, their parents did it the right way, so everyone else should, are literally going to sit back and probably give every excuse onto why Trump selling $5 million gold cards for citizenship is totally fine. Hello, how's it going? Um, and On top of that, they asked if like Russian oligarchs would be okay. He's fine with it because again, Russian oligarchs is Russia. The Russian government is essentially what he wants here in America, right? So the more Russian oligarchs here, the more it becomes like Russia. Okay, like that's all this is. He's selling, literally selling our country to the highest bidders and foreign nations. Like I don't know how much more obvious it can get that he is selling away our country to foreigners who bid the highest. He's already doing it with Russia. He's gonna do it with China, despite the fact that he keeps saying he hates China. And he's now selling away citizenship rights to get a fast track to citizenship for so rich people who can afford $5 million, not the ones who are seeking asylum and actually need asylum, not the ones who spent years waiting for the actual process. That takes up like what, the 10 years I think it is to actually become a citizen. Did you know that every Republican president since World War II? Yeah, let me get to the site. So, anyways, uh, I was saying, everyone that spent 10 years to get to the process right, those who claim that they want people to do it the right way, are going to be totally fine, um, allowing billionaires and millionaires to buy citizenship to get a fast track to citizenship. And then, so Macho here says, did you know that every Republican president since World War II has a recession? Yes, I do know that. I also know that most Republican presidents have spent more in terms of budget spending, and also caused some of our biggest economic collapses, recessions, Great Depression. Yeah, what's even crazier, like kind of adding on to the whole Republican presidents, like you're completely right, but adding on to that, the Republicans have held the House most in the last what 20, 30 years. um so all this spending comes under their budget plans, which is why that statement's true, is because when Republican presidents have control with the House and Senate, they tend to just spend more. Why do they spend more? Because they're trying to give their rich buddies, and it starts with Reagan. Like it starts with Reagan, right? Like because if you remember, Reagan was a actor, right? Yeah. So he was already a millionaire. How so? It's like, hey, how can I make myself more money? Oh, I know. Let me cut down my taxes, and I'll do it for all the other rich people, so I become more famous, and they'll vote for me, right? So, just like Macho here said, we're gonna have another Republican president. I don't even consider the felon a Republican. Maybe now. Maybe I do now. Before I didn't. I used to say that MAGA and Republicans were like two different parties because there were still some Republicans who had those Republican values. Now I think they just kind of merged at this point. One thing I find very interesting is that Republicans justify their policies by saying that they want American ran like a business, but they want to give tax cuts to billionaires. That's like a business finding out their most profitable product and listening it to the weekend. Yeah. Uh, well, not only that, Uh, hold on, my brother just texted me. Oh, we were talking about earlier how the House passed the budget bill. He just texted me about it. Yeah. But anyways, as I was saying, so yeah, they justify saying they want American ran like a business. It's funny you say that too, right? They want America ran like a business. They voted for the guy who has 6 bankruptcies. So we kind of know where this is going. We see it already, right? Like, look what happened the last couple days. Look at this. Now look at Nike. Everyone buying on Nike apparently. But look at this. Bitcoin dropped to under 90,000. I think the last time it jumped under 90,000 was back in 20 oh God, 2018, something like that. Um and then Dow Jones, like the Dow Jones, right? The Dow Jones is actually under where Biden left it. Okay. Biden left. Hold on. Zoom out. Biden left around here, and it dropped below that point, right? Um, it picked back up a little bit in the after hours, but it dropped, right? It reached under Biden's numbers. Then my favorite is this bad boy right here, Tesla. So Tesla opened today at like 327, and now it's sitting at aftermarket. It's sitting at 306, but still like a huge drop, right? That's my favorite one. But we're seeing it already. They're excited about a businessman running it like a business, except the businessman they chose filed for 6 bankruptcies, and essentially, that's where this country's headed into a bankruptcy, right? Like with the budget plan that just passed, 4.2 trillion's already being added, and I think it was something like 19 trillion over 10 years. Again, going back to what Macho was saying, all under a Republican president, right? Because they actually don't know how to be conservative with money. They spend the most all the time. The Fallon spent more than Biden did um, in all 4 years, and and he spent more than Obama did. I'm pretty sure, or maybe slightly less, but he almost spent as much or more as Obama did in 4 years, and Obama had 8. Right? Like they 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 voted. They keep voting for more spending without even realizing it, and I honestly sometimes don't know how else to make it more obvious. There's really not much more we can do, right? We can show all the data that we want. All it comes down to is their feelings. As long as they feel like they were making more, that's all they're going to care about. As long as they feel they can afford more, that's all they're going to care about. And um, the problem with that is because it's their feelings. There's really no other way to convince them. Uh, it's confirmation bias is what it is. You can't convince them that they're wrong because, for example, if they actually did have more, it's because they probably decided to save more because how bad the economy was, right? So they knew Trump's economy was bad, but they didn't want to believe it. So they had to be a bit more conservative on spending. So to them, they actually were saving more money and had more money because they actually had to be smart with their money for once. Instead of spending wildly like they probably were, they couldn't anymore because they were under a bad economy. So in their eyes, like, oh, look, I have more money. In reality, that's actually not the truth. You just were finally smart about how you use their money, so you just felt like you had more money, right? Like and that's you can't really fight that. You can't really prove that. It's I really don't know how else to explain it. If they honestly believe that they were making more or whatever, because they just passively decided to save more. There's really not much you can do about that. It's just one of those things you have to kind of like, I don't know. Um, I don't know. Anyways, okay, so I do have to hop off a little bit earlier than I want to. Um, but thank you all for joining. So I'm gonna try and come again on Thursday. I'm gonna try to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or maybe Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I haven't really decided yet, but for now I'm just doing Tuesday and Thursday. But for those that did join, thank you for joining. Make sure you give me a follow, right? Check out my TikTok, Instagram. My Instagram is a bit more more non-political. I try and keep my Instagram political free. Every now and then I'll post something, but I really like to keep. I try and keep my Instagram. Oh, political free. Every sorry. Um, Anyways, so I like to keep I share like what I read and stuff on there, more personal stuff. But then like my TikTok, feel free to follow, and Threads. That's where I post a lot of my political stuff. Um, but yeah, so check me out there. I'm eventually hoping to go live on TikTok. But again, I'll be live here again Thursday. But I'll be sharing stuff on TikTok as well. I also upload my things to YouTube, so if you want to watch them back later, check out my YouTube as well. I think I forgot to put it up there, but it's the same as my threads and Instagram. Just look up Rob4493, you'll find me there. Um, but anyways, so thanks for those that were joining here. Really appreciate it. And I will see you all another time. Thank you. Have a good night, guys.